For One of Us Knows, I really was very ambitious, a bit too ambitious because it took a really long time to write. So I'm like still behind with so many deadlines because this book was like the hardest. It wasn't the hardest to write, but it was difficult to write because so Kenitria Nash is Ken is the main protagonist, but she is part of a dissociative identity disorder system. And basically, she has been dormant for 6 years, 5 or 6 years. Basically, she was like, I don't want to deal with any of this stuff. I'm out. I'm going somewhere. And the other members of the system had to kind of deal with the everyday aspects of their lives. Whereas before, she had been the primary person handling day-to-day activities. So I'm trying to like describe it without going too in depth into the technical stuff, but basically for the idea, okay, for the setting, there is a real castle, and a real island and a real castle. Island is a real island. It's up near Beacon, New York, and the island is also known as Bannerman's Island because he got rich selling military arms, and then he was keeping them all in Brooklyn. And they were like, you got to get out of here. You can't just have a storehouse of like bombs and explosives in the middle of Brooklyn. So then he bought this island and he built for the place to store everything, the warehouse, he built this like really it's a castle from afar, so and you can see it from the train, which I did. So when I was on the train, I was like, why is there a castle up there? And later I read a little about it, but he so basically and there was also a home for his family, but of course there was an explosion in the armory and uh as always happens when rich people build these like secluded castles and homes, things happen. Not like what happened in the book, but that was fictional. But so that was the basis of like, okay, um, I tried to change enough because I don't know what Bannerman was getting up to. He seemed like a normal guy. I wasn't trying to like besmirch his name. And then I got the idea. I was thinking about, I had been thinking, I came to the dissociative identity disorder aspect through a different route. Which was that I had for many years wanted to try a story about like a kind of dream world because basically like sometimes there are periods of like when I will have dreams that are all set in like the same area, like it's a neighborhood or a building or something, and then like when I'm in the dream, I'm like, oh yeah, I was here like in the last dream, or yeah, over there is where I was in the last dream. And sometimes I talk to people about this and they're like, what are you talking about? And then other times I talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, I've been going to like the same house for like years, which is not something I've ever experienced. So like I was realizing that there was a spectrum of this like brains building these kind of inner worlds that we can access. And then when I was learning more about dissociative identity disorder, and I was kind of thinking about how in most thrillers, which is where you usually see these disorder characters with this disorder, and it's usually like a surprise at the end, like something wild is happening, and then at the end you realize, oh, actually they have dissociative identity disorder. And I was like, okay, it would be kind of interesting to start with the characters knowing that they have this, and also with the kind of anti-hero or person forced to be the hero being the character that is usually the bad guy that jumps out at the end, like, haha, like it was me punching people in the face the whole time. So I was like, I started with this idea of like, what if the bad guy in the system had to save them? And there wasn't really no matter how much she didn't want to do it. And so writing it was really hard because the research and also each time I change, sometimes when you're writing and then you change an aspect of a character's personality, but with this book, anytime I change something would have the ripple effect in the system. And then I would have to, okay, well, if she's totally like this, then that would actually change a bit how this character is and how this character is and this character is. And so kind of getting to know each of them, figuring out their role both in the system and then in the story, like what do they know? Because each of them knows a little bit of something, but they don't know entirely. And then having, so there's a mystery happening in their inner world, castle, and then a mystery happening in the exterior world, castle. And then there's also a historical mystery element going on. So I did get overwhelmed while writing it, but eventually I finished. And one of the most interesting things is I've had multiple dissociative identity disorder systems like contact me and be like, "Do you have DID?" And I was like, "I don't think so." At a certain point while I was writing it, I was like, "Do I?" And then I was like, if that's the case, let's just keep things as they are. But no, it's a very like serious disorder, so I don't mean to be glib about that, but I did really do so much research into it. And I was really happy. I did have a consultant, like I didn't just do it all alone, who I would run ideas by. And generally they were like, okay, yeah. But I wanted to write something that was like interesting, like a thriller that was like exciting and confusing and interesting, but also I wanted, if anyone with dissociative identity disorder picked up the book, that at no point would they say, ah, okay, here we go again. Like now here's another cliche or stereotype or I wanted them to kind of connect with the characters and feel seen. The murder mystery was fun because it was like, kind of the classic locked room. We're all here. No one else is on this island. One of us had to do it. There's someone who seems the most likely suspect, who is our protagonist, and like how will we figure out who really did it and why, and in a way that kind of ties everything together. And I think that was for me the hardest part and the most, hopefully the most fun part for the reader was like I really tried to make sure that there are so many things that maybe in the moment don't make sense or don't even seem noticeable, but then at the point where everything comes together, hopefully the reader will be like, oh yeah, back there that happened and that happened and this person said that and um so kind of trying to make it like a fun mystery for the reader, but not wanting them to solve it was the fun part for the murder mystery.